space is a place for us.
Real people with real issues.
Discussing real topics.
Black space.
A safe space for our community.
Hello, I'm George Middleton, your host this evening on this podcast episode of Black Space Live. For the topic of our discussion today, we're going to examine the question, Part 2, what do women bring to the table? As well as the answers to this challenging, thought-provoking, and potentially controversial question. I'd like to take this time to briefly encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. In other words, don't be selfish with this content. Share the love. You can catch Black Space Live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and Spotify. And you can catch us on Anchor FM, Podcast Addict, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. So we're going to come back in the ring today on part 2 of this question. Before we get into it, let's introduce our exciting panelists, our educated, intellectual, and entertaining group. Let's begin with Stacy. Please tell the listeners, viewers, and watchers what you would like them to know about you.
My name is Stacy. I am a mother, sister, a RN, and I take care of developmentally disabled adults. And I'm here for fun adult conversation.
Welcome, Stacy. Malika.
I am Malika Green. I am a single mom to a beautiful baby boy. I am also an entrepreneur. I do financial consulting. I have travel agency, and I also have a children's book. And I am here to engage and talk about this amazing topic.
Welcome back, Malika. China.
Hi guys, I am China, originally from Mississippi, living in Texas. 32-year-old single Black female, and I am here because it gets good. It gets good.
All right. Well, welcome, China. And the great just got in off the runway, Penny.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lamar Finley, affectionately known as Penny. I am a pilot and I am an entrepreneur as well. From the great state of Florida, sunny Florida. It was a beautiful day today. Beautiful day.
It was.
Well, welcome back, Penny. I tell you, watching you hustle back in your pilot's uniform, we should have had that on video because, we were saying off back in the studio, that would make a great intro to the Black Space Live. Penny coming in hot. Boy, this, ain't nothing more sexy than a brother coming off that big old plane in the uniform.
You
looking like
saw me hustling out the airport.
All right. So the question, what do women bring to the table, really brought up some really interesting angles of the perspectives to this really traditional maybe over asked question, and wondering whether it's still relevant today. And there were a lot of dynamics that came out of it. And what I wanted to do before we took the conversation to the next stage is asked each of you, what were your takeaways from part 1 of this discussion? Let's start with Stacy.
Like I said, the women pretty much agreed. We kind of Penny was, I don't know, Penny is Penny. I learned Penny is Penny. I think we just, as far as everything, we kind of we got to figure out exactly what is this table. I don't think we found out what this table actually is. So I think we just gonna have to. My takeaway was we still trying to figure out what this table is and how it's gonna get built.
Ooh wee. That's right, and how it's going to get built. I'm not sure who it was the last episode, but they mentioned 3 or 4 pillars that would make those the legs of the table. So we'll have to revisit that. Okay,
That was me.
that was you.
I was gonna say that was
Yeah,
Stacey.
That was you. That was powerful. That was very powerful. So we're going to have to revisit that. Okay, Malika.
So my biggest takeaway was pretty much learning that this table isn't comprised of so many materialistic and external things like I hear on so many other platforms speaking on what women bring to the table and getting deeper into what's internal and what's on the inside that they can actually bring to the table. And I greatly appreciate that.
So this question really is more introspective, centered, more qualitative about the attributes of each individual, not so much as what each individual actually does or what their role is.
Correct.
Love it. China.
From part 1, I found it interesting as though we are speaking about the same table, but just the different views that men and women have. As Stacey mentioned, I really just don't think that men and women truly will come to one accord on this topic. But let's see how part 2 goes.
You said you don't believe that men and women can truly come into one accord?
That is my belief.
So the gender divide is real.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, it depends on the. I think it depends on the people.
You think it depends on the people?
Yeah.
You said so it's contextual, situational.
Yeah, situational. Definitely situational.
Penny.
My biggest takeaway from the last conversation is that even in 3-on-1s, I can leave without a black eye. No, I'm kidding. No, I think that, my biggest takeaway is that there definitely there's a I don't think there's necessarily a gender divide per se. I think there's just a communication divide between the genders. It's my opinion that I don't necessarily know that the other gender hears us of the male persuasion. I don't think they hear us. I don't think we're that far apart. To be quite honest, I just don't think that they hear what we're saying.
So you're being more specific. It's not really a gender divide. It's a communication issue. And you're saying the communication issue has to do with the inability of women in general to actually listen and understand.
Yep.
Okay, I see you coming right in with a very popular perspective that I'm sure the ladies are just going to really embrace. Okay.
They'll embrace it.
Okay. So, we didn't get through all of the questions. So we'll try to attempt to, on the last one, so we'll try to attempt to feather those questions back in. But let's begin where Stacey brought the challenge to in terms of determining the table. Stacey, would you mind recounting what those 4 legs that you offered? What were those 4 legs that you thought brought the stability to the table?
You are breaking up. I was saying that, okay, as far as like, okay, you got men and women. Okay, we got 4 legs all together. We come in, and it's just like the man, like I was saying, the man can be financial, the woman can be financial, but you also when it comes to mental and thoughts and ideas and how to carry out stuff, I think that builds the table. That helps build the table and make the table stronger because we both stand there together as man and woman, and with these four legs, these tables actually stand up on two legs. You you can do it by yourself, but you be leaning. So I just feel like when men and women get together and we work off each other's strengths and you bring all that together, that makes for a whole table. It's not just you bringing the whole table in with you or the woman bringing the whole table in with her. Y'all got to bring it in together and create and make the table strong. That's how I feel like that's where the table come in. Nobody just comes in with a table. It's nowhere in the world.
Even though, for the record, I've heard women say, "I am the table." I just kind of chuckle when I hear that, but I've heard women say, "I am the table." Okay.
Ladies, do you agree that with that statement that Penny's talking about? Do women feel they are the table?
Nobody's disabled.
No,
Some
some
of
men
them.
feel that. I know some women who may feel that way, but I don't think anyone is the table on their own.
So the table, if I remember some of those legs, I believe, Stacey, you mentioned trust, financial. There were some particular.
You got to have trust, honesty.
Yes.
You got to cut your foot and get off. I'm glitching. Come on.
So you got trust. What was the second one you said?
I believe she said honesty.
Trust, honesty. Okay.
Honesty.
What?
You, that's our rip. Like literally, trust and honesty. Even when you talk to somebody, you got to start asking them these questions, and it's up to you. You can trust them until they make you feel otherwise. But it's some
Right.
hard questions. I'm learning. I had to learn. It ain't always been like this. But you have to ask all the hard questions up front, like literally, because if you don't get honesty and trust from the beginning, it's no use you walking down the road anyway. Because
Right.
ain't nothing going. What you gonna get? Nobody's gonna get anything out of that. She gonna mistrust him, or he gonna mistrust her, whichever way it go.
hmm So how about the male contribution, Penny? If the table were four legs and Stacy's got the first two legs, what legs would you bring in to that table from a male perspective?
So my four legs, and pardon the alliteration. So my four legs would be faith, family, finances, and fidelity. I think that those four things are a very solid foundation for a marriage specifically. Finances are a huge component to a marriage. You got to have money to pay the bills. You have to be financially responsible with that money so that your family doesn't fall on hard times, or at least try to prevent your family from falling on hard times. Faith is extraordinarily important. How can two walk lest they agree? I'm a Christian, and I've dated outside the faith, and it was interesting. Oh man, I could tell some stories. Fidelity, of course, we don't want to be cheating on one another, and of course, fidelity goes with being honest with each other as well. You want to be honest, with your significant other. And darn it, I forgot where I was.
So faith and what was it? What was that?
Faith, family, finances, and fidelity. And family, of course.
Faith, family, finances, and fidelity.
Yep. And of course,
And
family is extraordinarily important.
And we have trust and honesty. So we might need a 6-leg table. This might be a dining room table.
I think the trust and honesty goes into fidelity. I think it's the same thing.
So you think those are overlap?
Yeah, I think they're the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. So looking at it this way, we're looking at it from a more collaborative piece, just in terms of trying to determine this table. However, the question really comes from a more male-centered perspective, because only a man would ask, "What do women bring to the table?" And typically, coming from a man perspective, when I'm thinking of that, we're thinking more quantitative than qualitative. What do you have to offer? Because the question assumes that our game is tight. Basically, that question assumes that as a man, our stuff is together. So if you want to get with me, you got to show me. I need to see your pedigree. I need to see your resume. You're educated, your status of education. Can you cook? Can you clean? I mean, you're real basic, traditional, not gray, but black and white criteria. Penny, is that really the way you see this question? Here we're talking more collaborative. And as we're doing that, is the collaborative thing how you feel about this, or is it really more of the traditional male mindset about this?
Well, it depends on the guy, and I want to divide it only in two camps: modern versus traditional. I think traditional is more of a collaborative, but I think that modern is more of a collaborative, and I think that traditional is more of a, I have this, and what do you bring? To be quite honest, I don't see any issue with either one. If that's your flavor, just like I see no issue with people liking, chocolate ice cream. I just not a fan. I'm more of a traditional guy, and I have a more of a traditional viewpoint with respect to marriage.
Okay.
And so yeah, I will agree that if you are more a traditional mindset, you have to be prepared to take that traditional role, which means you got to have your stuff together. You have to. You have to have your stuff together. And so the assumption is, listen, I got my stuff together. And I'm not, and I would never say I'm the table, because I'm not the table. The table is the foundation of the relationship. But these are the things that I'm going to bring to this, to set on this foundation. And I have all that I need, So what are the assets that you're going to bring? I got the house. How you going to decorate it?
All right, so let's look at it examine it from both perspectives, and let's begin with the male perspective. There's an article that I looked up, and it is titled "Behind Every Masculine Man is a Feminine Woman." So I'm just going to read some of this, and let's see if this has any connection with this discussion. This article explores the concept of embracing femininity while rejecting feminism. Feminism, which advocates for women's rights and the equality of the sexes, has been the rising ideology for the past 50 years or so. But even those who have embraced this ideology are realizing that it has its downsides. The article suggests 5 simple ways for women to pursue femininity. So don't shoot the messenger as I read these. Wear a skirt. Relax and let the men take the lead. Embrace children. Avoid toughness. Build men up. Now, there's a lot of extra explanations in any of these. I'm just giving you the bullet points right now. How does this hit you? Do you see this as related to this topic? If not, tell me why. If so, give me your rationale. How does this hit you?
I don't see anything wrong with this list, George. I don't see anything wrong with it.
What is it about this list that resonates with you, Penny?
I mean, it speaks of traditional femininity, and the last one really resonated. So in our last show, I said, listen, stroke my ego,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I will give you the world. I will slay the dragon. I will bring home the bacon, the bread. I will do what I have to do. And all I ask is in return, primarily, just stroke my ego. You know, I shoot better than Jordan. I'm bigger and stronger than Shaq. And I'm faster than Deion Sanders in his prime. It may not be true, but I want you to make me believe it. As my woman, make me believe it. And I will give you that my blood. I will break my back, making sure you're the happiest, most protected, most cared for woman on the planet. That's all I ask. That's that building me up part.
The first time I heard you say that, I was like, stroke your ego. But you know what? After I thought about it and I listened to you say it now, it's not really stroke your ego. It's just the way you're saying it. But women, there is women that actually encourage their men and want them to do better. And they talk to them and let them know that they can be anything and do anything they want to. And they try to help them. But you get men, sometimes you do these for these men, and then they get to a point where they forget you still also need your ego stroked. You sit there, you study doing what they need, but then they forget about you. So you got to think it's both ways. That's where it comes from, both sides of the spectrum. We can both have to be at a middle space coming to the table that I'm gonna encourage you, you gonna encourage me. We're gonna do this together. It's gonna make both of us better. It's gonna make the house more harmonious. So, and that's now I understand what you said, because last time I was looking at you real crazy when you said that.
But Stacey, but here's the difference, right? That's my primary, right? That's my primary. Just like I believe with most women, their primary would probably be provision, maybe protection, but that's my primary. I don't think most women's primary is ego stroke. If I provide for you and I protect you, right, but I did less of the ego stroking, I think that you would still respect me as your husband. But on the flip side, if you were cooking and cleaning for me, but making me feel that small, I think I opened myself up for a dump right there. But I would not feel as much of a man. Does that make sense? So with me, my ego stroke is primary. I'm not saying I don't have to, compliment and build up my woman. Of course I have to do that. I'm not gonna, beat her down. This is my woman. But with me, that ego stroke is one of the primaries for men. For me, at least.
I think for me, maybe the wording is bothering me, because this whole building up a man thing, right? So why can't you already be built and I keep you lifted? Like, you already come in with the confidence, like I'm better than Jordan, like I'm better than Deion Sanders, and I just keep you there and lift you up higher.
I mean that.
Yeah, I think it's the wording.
I get what you're saying.
That's what I mean.
And that's why I said I think that again is the communication thing that I talked about earlier. Certainly, guys have to have confidence, right? Guys have to have that. They're not going to attract women if they don't, primarily, unless they have other things that are attractive. But women are attracted to men with confidence, and I shouldn't say most men, but men that are attracting women are confident men, and they are already up there. But I still want you to boost me up. I still want you to make me feel like I'm better than, because think about it. I'm out in the world taking a beat down daily,
right? which is what this article alludes to in the area of build men up. Let me add the diatribe that goes on here. Build men up. Men are torn down plenty these days. Don't contribute to that tearing down by bashing them yourself. Instead, build up the men around you. Thank them for the ways they protect you. Compliment them on masculine behavior. Let them hold the door and carry boxes for you, even if you think you can handle them just fine on your own. Unfortunately, these actions are countercultural and could get you labeled a misogynist, even if you're a woman. Swimming upstream is never easy, but those who rise to the challenge of doing so are the ones who are truly bold and brave conduits of change. So if you as a woman want to change the world, cast off the bonds of feminism and instead embrace femininity. Thoughts?
Of course, I agree with this 1,000%. Quick joke. My lady and I, we go to the stores, frequently because y'all women love to shop, but we go to stores frequently, right? And whenever she reaches for a door, I'd lightly tap her hand out the way, like stop that, and I kind of move to grab the door, because one, that was the way I was raised, and that's just how I was raised. I like to do chivalrous things like that for her. I know she can open her own door. I know she can drive her own car. But I like to be chivalrous in that fact. It's kind of a little funny thing that I do.
That's what you're supposed to do because she now has you, right? But prior to you, I don't know how long it's been since she was in a relationship. Before that, she had to open that door herself. She had no one to do that for her. But now that you are in her world, and just to piggyback on what you guys said, don't get me wrong, I do agree with some of the things on the list. But like the lady said, just do the wording. But yeah, for me, strong, come in confident. We all want that. But not all men are going to present that to us, right? We are in a day and age where, so what I can say that I see, I don't see very many men being men. And that's where we get a disconnect with all of these lists out there, because that does not, I don't feel that covers the general population.
Dave Chappelle said, chivalry is dead and women killed it. And I agree with Dave. There are a lot of women that lead with masculinity. And, there are women that used to fight me and stuff like that. I mean, I didn't deal with them very long, but stuff like that, they would push back. I'm like, okay, push back then. You push me, I'm going to back up on going on this direction. And then they would later complain about there's no good men out here. And it's like, no, you chase the men away, because this whole idea that masculine behavior is bad, gender roles are bad and toxic masculinity and the boogeyman, it's all kinds of nonsense. It's off-putting. And I think that is the dominant narrative, specifically in our community. Come on, Stacey. You know you want to say something.
Let's hear it.
I know you want to say something, Stacey. Come on, Stacey.
No,
be quiet.
I would chime on this one. It is, I say maybe 1 out of every 10 men that actually do what you do. And are like men, they don't fix stuff no more. They don't put together stuff no more. They don't change tires no more. They don't do nothing.
Wow.
Okay. So if you go into like them type of relationships, all I can say, stay away from them type of relationships when they don't do nothing, because then you have to turn, you literally turn into a man for something back there. You gonna go ask somebody else's man to help you do something when you got a man laying up with you? No, you got to do it. And that's what so many women done went through till they learn how to do this stuff on their own. It's not that we want to be masculine. Hell, we want somebody to help us. We want somebody to do it. We want somebody to pay for something, open the door. We want that. No, I do anyway. Speaking for myself, I do.
So this is where our relationship patterns and our cultural paradigm has become a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to how we view each other, male to female. There's a systemic reason why the average man today is not normally associated anymore with the handyman type of skill sets, such as the basics of changing the tire, hammer and nail, wrench and screw. One of the churches, I'm a musician, one of the churches I played for a while back, An old pastor said something that I'll never forget. Because in my work as a mental health counselor, I see this a lot. But he said the best way to describe the average young male's experience growing up is, I became a man just like my mama.
Yep.
100% agree.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
And so we can't really blame men today for the cultural relationship patterns that they were brought up in. We have to really learn from it. And then let's look at the other side of the coin. You talk about building men up. Specific to our community, most of the women in our community have not had, statistically speaking, healthy relationships with males from birth, beginning with their father. Not all, but a significant percentage of women in our community have not been in an environment of healthy male relationships.
I'm one out of the three of us. I sure have it.
2 or 3.
And I yeah, see?
And so, go ahead, Malika.
But doesn't that go to the flip side of we're talking about being raised in a single parent home, mostly by the mother, but aren't the men that started off as boys being raised as men, so they don't have that male figure there too? If you get what I'm saying? Like
Say that again.
Okay, so how do I say this? So we're looking at it as if, we're raised in a home by the mother, and so the boy follows in the footsteps of what he was taught by the mom. But isn't this in part that the dad wasn't there to be that example for him to follow? So we're looking at it as if it's the single mom, but it's the absent dad as well.
Yeah, well, that statement, I became a man just like my mama, may sound like it's blaming the mother, but it's not blaming the mother. It's just describing the experience. There's no blame intended, although some people can receive it as such. But there's no blame intended in that. It just describes the environment. Thank God for moms sticking around. That's a testament, actually. That's a testament to the strength of a mother, to the passion and commitment of a mother. So in no way is that degrading, to degrade someone on something that they're not equipped to do. That's not even fair. It's not rational. There is a male role and there's a female role, and they're equally valuable. And what's the purpose of those roles if everybody can do what everybody does? What do we need each other for? If I am attracted to women, then I'm attracted to women, not another man. And not that there's anything wrong with that for those who may be otherwise persuaded. But when we're talking about the traditional male-female relationship, I want a female. And hopefully she wants a male. But what happens is in our community specifically, and I would say this is happening increasingly in American culture, in most all culture groups. But specific to our community, we suffer from that lack of healthy exposure to what men are to be, what masculinity is. And we have very traumatized women who have had to figure it out on their own, and bumps and bruises and all, meanwhile still being the glue of the family. And that's hard work, man. It's like, for the average female experience, it's almost like being the only caregiver in your family. You've got brothers and sisters, and you got a real suck mother or father or whoever that is, and none of the brothers and sisters are going to help. But you're the one that's continually making sure that sick person is being that takes a toll on you when you don't have anybody to help you. And for many women in our community, it's like being a continuous caregiver, given to everyone else with no assistance 24/7 and making it look easy. Thoughts?
Listen, I agree. I talk about, what led to this, and I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole, but, I get it. I get it. But the common denominator in all of this is the fact that there's a popular narrative amongst women in our community that men aren't necessary. And that is so far from the truth. We're extraordinarily necessary. But with a common denominator, and women not having those healthy relationships with men from day one, or with young girls rather not having a healthy relationship with men from day one, and for young men not having that male role model around to pretty much teach you how to be men. Iron sharpens iron. You need men around to teach young men how to be men, and obviously that absence, reverberates, throughout our community. It's unfortunate.
So women, if you agree with this, and we're talking about this aspect of building men up, embracing your femininity, relaxing and letting men take the lead. How do today's women migrate from their current perspective on men to this more feminine embraced perspective? Is that possible? And if so, how do we do it?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. They just have to come in showing that. You don't want to have to pull nothing out of the man. If he's alpha, he's gonna come alpha. That's what you want. We ain't trying to pull nothing out of nobody.
So they got to come ready. They already just got to come ready.
Yeah, and it's not even taking, because everybody love to hit finances in there, taking finances all the way off the table. I'm talking about mindset. Your mindset has to come. You have to come with all of that. That confidence, you want that. You want them to lead, to be able to lead. Yes, they're gonna have to have finances, Penny. The lead.
I was about to say, because you can't.
We got to have that. We know that part. We try to keep that. We gonna keep that out of conversation for a minute. We gonna put this as a known factor. They have the finances, but I'm talking about like, even because sometimes they can have all the finances in the world, but you're still not gonna stay with them if they don't know how to manage anything. You want them to be able to come in and have the mind to be able to say, okay, we're gonna do this. Me personally, my mouth get like this. Tell me to shut up. You might have to tell me to shut up. We can talk about that later. Just shut up right now. That's it.
You telling black men in America to say that? You set us up to be killed.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I know what you mean.
Some days you need. I might have to tell you calm down. And some days you just might have to tell me shut up. I know me.
I agree. Sometimes, women, we do need to be checked sometimes. You know what I mean? But just to go back to what you guys were initially discussing, there are a lot of hurt people out there. When you really, really look at it, there's a lot of hurt people out there. So the discussions we are having is not the ideal man or the ideal woman that we would all like to be, right? Life happens. And of course, upbringing and all that happens, but even in your younger years, I have heard guys tell me, oh, this woman didn't do this or that. She didn't appreciate it. I ain't doing it for the next one. I heard, women say, well, this one didn't like how I did this. He didn't like how I did that. So for the next one, I ain't going to do nothing. And that's where we are today. We have so many hurt people afraid to just open up and be vulnerable. And I had to learn that. I'm just going to be honest with you. When you are put in positions where you have to do it on your own, when you are put in positions where you are responsible for you and you have to make it, that's what the line is tiptoed. But I had to learn that I have to be soft. I have to learn that I need to be checked sometimes to settle down, be quiet, listen. But a lot of people haven't get to that point in their life yet, and they're still hurt.
So
I
to
would
that
say,
point, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, to the original question of what can women do, heal, get to the place where we're healing from that hurt, so we're not settling for these men who are doing what she's talking about, being hurt and handling each relationship from that space of hurt. And we're having to step up into that masculine role because they're not doing it. Heal and know your self worth, know your value so that you're not settling for that. And you can attract that man who is healed and who's going to be that leader and who's going to be that strength and that confidence in that relationship so you can sit back and be soft.
Healing is hard.
It is, and it is
So,
work, but
so, so to Stacy's point, she talked about money earlier, right? And I've always said that you should pick on character. And so I asked this question. So you say a man should check you sometimes. I always say men set the tone in the relationship, right? Men set the tone, right? They should provide the direction. They should be captain. You're first officer, right? You're my co-pilot, right? So the problem with that, though, right, is that in order to command, at least in the current dating environment, in order to command that type of respect from women, that guy has to have a certain amount of bacon. If he's an average earning guy, right, and because Stacey, I know you're above average earning woman because you're a nurse. Are you? And I'm not saying you, Stacey. I'm speaking generally speaking. Is he going to command that same type of respect? And because what I've seen is that's the problem. Whereas men in general, because there's good men that go to church, they are, in my opinion, great leaders. But because maybe the woman out earns her, or she's overvalued herself. Yes, there are women that overvalue themselves. She is not going to give him that same type of respect, and that's the imbalance that I see in the dating market, and that's problematic. And I specifically am talking about us Black people specifically. That's a problem because if we didn't have that unbalance, and our women were leading and seeking out men of character, and putting finance is important, but putting that on the back burner, putting the D game on the back burner, putting the looks game on the back burner, looking for that man of integrity, right, of good character, we'd be in a different conversation because we had a conversation on this show in which it was one of y'all that had two good men, but dismissed them because the D game wasn't right. I'm about to wake that up.
You ain't have to call me out like that, then.
I forgot it was you, China.
You did not have to call me out like that.
I forgot it was you, China. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out, China, but
okay.
Hit dogs holler.
But you know what? Y'all can say I'm naive or whatever. I feel like that the way you get to that part of the relationship where you can actually take that kind of not them being abusive, but them telling you need to be quiet right now is getting to know them, knowing them, and being able. It comes back with trust and all that stuff there too, because you got to trust they got your best interest in. You just might just need to be quiet for one second.
But you got to move in good faith in relationships, though, right? You got to move in good faith, period. Right?
Exactly.
Don't assume
everybody don't.
True, but the assumption is that. But the assumption is that I'm going to be like so for example, with the conversation around being submissive, right? It's a dirty word, right? Because the assumption is that I want a slave. That's not moving in good faith. Y'all follow me?
Yes.
Well, submission gets back to what Malika stated earlier, and I'd like to kind of explore that some more. Heal. So submission in our community is a word of trauma. Submission is very close to slavery, and the diagnosis of post-traumatic slave syndrome is real. It's real. And we have lured ourselves into this false illusion that we are healed from those experiences. And in actuality, we're not. So the healing, trauma causes you to always be in a reactionary situation. You're reacting to everything. So if someone says something, you're going to react to it. Someone does something, you're going to react to it. That's not the sign of a healed person. And as China said, hurt people hurt people. So if you get hurt, then what you want to do is hurt back. So that makes you're always controlled by the actions of someone else who either cares about you or does not. Either way, you're not in control. So the challenge to healing is as a single woman, how do you, with all of the other things that you have to take care of, you're spinning 100 plates already. How do you, and as China said, healing is very difficult. How do you heal? How do you find that time to heal when you got all of these other things going on? And then on the male side, how do men recapture their masculinity? I mean, are we expecting women to build us up and make us the men that we're supposed to be? How do we as men control that aspect of our development? I'll just put that out there for you all to discuss.
I'll say it's a desire from both parts of wanting for the woman to heal and for the man to want to, find that role model who's going to show him the way. Like for me personally, once I had my son, I knew I wasn't wanting to raise another angry Black man. And so I made the time to go to therapy. And that's the first time I heard, you do need a man. And I started having to actually pay attention to that, listen to that, and figure that out and see where I actually needed a man at in my life. See where my son needs his father in his life. Followed by having to, when healing, getting rid of the desire to filter everything that's said to me from my past trauma in order to function as a healed woman. And the same goes for a man. You have to have that strong burning desire to want to be that man in the relationship that's leading and that's confident and strong. So you're going to seek out someone who has those qualities that can teach it to you so that you can step up and be that man.
That is very true. Penny, why did God create Eve? Why do you think?
He was there. God gave Adam a task, and he was there to help him with it.
Wrong. So God created Eve because he knew he got it wrong the first time. I'm just playing.
Oh, wait a minute.
I tell everyone that is my running joke. God created Eve because he knew he kind of messed up the first time. He's like, you know what? I need to go back to the table. But no, seriously. I listened to it was an episode where Fantasia was at the Breakfast Club, and they were asking us, or they were asking her, how did she feel about being submissive? And the analogy she gave was, of course, she said, I'm the neck and my man is the head. And without either, it doesn't work, right? And what your therapist told you when she said, you need a man, I know so many women say, I don't need no man. And so many, I don't need no woman, I got everything I need. You're lying. And I could be wrong, but this is my honest opinion. Every woman who has actually said they don't need a man, I knew they needed it. You don't tell me anything. Your actions speak for itself, right? And if you ask any happily married woman does she need a man, she's gonna look at you crazy and ridiculous because she already knows she needs it. We need each other, but that's the thing, we don't quite understand it. We have, like we said earlier, we have so many people that's doing it on our own that we, in our minds, we may think that we don't need the opposite, but the human race would end without that, right? So once we can, and that's why I said there's a gender divide there because there's so many men today. So many men today. And don't get me wrong, I know we discussed what it Kevin
Daniels.
Sa- yes. Now y'all know where I'm going. And some women may not agree with me, but I do believe in half of what he said. It was just how he said it. But you have so many people in our generation who feel that they truly don't need a man or a woman. And that's what brought violence.
Okay, so look. Oh, go ahead, Stacy.
I need one. I'm tired of doing this on my own.
All right.
Oh,
Well, that's good to hear. So let's move this to the male side. We talked about femininity versus feminism, and before we move, I want to end that section from a person in the comment section, Invisigot or Invisigo, who says it is toxic feminism that seeks to separate itself from femininity. True feminism is not masculine or anti-masculine. Mic drop. All right, so here's another study that I came across. The title of the study is Why Does the American Psychological Association Call Traditional Masculinity Harmful to Men and Boys? And let's see, after I read through this, how Penny resonates with the findings of this. According to the APA, for many years, psychological study focused mostly on men, in parentheses, white men in particular. Now research has shown that traditional masculinity can be psychologically harmful and socializing boys to suppress their emotions, which can cause inward and outward harm. In an effort to address these problems, the APA released the first official numbers. The introduction of these guidelines claims significant downsides to the perpetuation of traditional masculinity. So here are the harmful aspects that the APA has guidelined. Limiting males' psychological development, constraining males' behavior, gender role strain and conflict, attachment insecurities, violence to gender and sexually diverse people, strained intimate relationship well-being, risky sexual behaviors, lack of intimacy, repression of emotion. In short, traditional masculinity ideology is the dominant form of masculinity, i.e., it strongly influences what members of a culture take to be normative. In many cases, normative may be derived from the traditional dominance and stereotypes of white men in the United States. So, how does that hit you all? Is this relevant to this discussion, to the relationships between men and women, or indifferent?
So I think, first of all, I think that that's a very ugly definition of masculinity, although it is true. But I think black men. I don't think that that's black men. I think one of the byproducts of the fact that our community is so led by women is that black men we've learned some of the quote unquote healthy traits. Now there's a balancing act with masculinity. Certainly there are quote unquote bad aspects of quote unquote traditional masculinity. Keep not emoting properly. Kind of suppressing your emotions. Violence toward not just those that are sexually different or sexually different preferences, toward people in general is not unwarranted violence is not healthy. And I hate that that's even associated with masculinity, but it is. Men on the extreme, that's just who they are. But there's a balancing act to be had. And I think that black men specifically many of us have learned, especially the emotional piece, that emotional balancing act of learning how to emote properly and not suppressing our emotion. The problem that I see is that a lot of us don't have the space to do so. A lot of men that that are in tune with their emotions, even in our community, are looked at as not so masculine. We call them soft, you know, girly. We insult them. Take your panties off. As a gender and in our community, we're not really open to find that balance. We're not given the space to find that balance. But I hate that, and that's just I hate that everything. And I get it. It's the global dominance of white supremacy that they paint the narrative. But I hate that that's the narrative that's painted. But I understand.
Ladies, what are your thoughts on this article? Do you see that? Do you see this harmful psychological development in your boys as you're raising them?
With my two, I have a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old. And literally, the 16-year-old has never seen his father ever in life. The 17-year-old seen his father the last time when he was 18 months old. And I raised him. And my husband that I just had, he was not father figure. Well, he started off kind of, I'm not going to take number. He started off, he taught the older one how to drive, but then just stuff happened. But my boys, they are very in tune in who they are. As far as their friendships that they have with their group of friends that I know, they have very good, strong friends. Both of them do JROTC. They're leaders. They're not. They cry. They get mad. They cry. They cry. They had girlfriends. They cry because they hurt. They frustrated. So and they don't get any. They don't care, but they too don't care what people think of them. They kind of, I don't know. I can't explain them. And I raised them, but they just came out to be good boys. And I do a lot of praying over them too, so that could have helped.
Stacey, I got a question for you before the other ladies chime in. And I spoke to that's the balance that you get with the women in our community. You get the balance of being open to emote. And I cry sometimes. I'm a manly man, so I only cry like once a year, and I've already cried this year, so I'm not going to cry anymore. But do they have that? Are they able to do those other quote unquote traditional male things? Can they change tires? Can they fix stuff? Can they do the
Well,
basics? If I
my
lift the hood of a
kids,
car, can they identify parts?
we're learning that now with him. We're learning that now because he just got his car, say, about 2 months ago. Like I had to send him to take his tire to get it fixed, though, because he don't know how to change a tire. And apparently he did not know not to ride on the rim either. So we're going through this stuff right with him right now. But as far as they have no roles because they wash clothes, they fold up clothes, they clean up, they cook. Because I work 6 to 7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. They handle the house, they cook. And this is stuff I started when they was earlier. And they have a 12-year-old sister and they handle like as far as like he'll pick up from school when he have to pick up from school. So but as far as like what?
No, go ahead. Now I was gonna make a joke. You say you work 7 days a week, 12 hours
Yeah.
shifts. I was gonna be like this.
Oh yeah, it's nice. But what you call it? But as far as with boys being boys, they learn, they know how to work outside. They just we ain't got to that tire part yet. And I identify the stuff in the car. So you know how to put gas in there though.
Want to go somewhere? He will.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
So I just want to chime in on a few things. What we're on right now, basic things that men should know how to do, changing a tire, putting something together, fixing something around the house. Me personally, because I have been by myself for so long, I don't think that's just what men should. To me, those are just basic life skills. So no matter if you are male or female, if I'm on the road by myself, don't get me wrong. Of course, I got good insurance. I know how to call AAA up and all that. But if I have a flat tire, 11 o'clock at night, I should know how to get that. I mean, that's just me. It's a basic life skill. It's not very much to it. I taught myself how to do it from YouTube. You know what I mean? So when it comes to things like that, when it comes to cooking, excuse my, I've got to go back to Mississippi. Everybody got to eat. Everybody got to eat. So men should know how to cook. Men should know how to throw down. I'm a little bit old thing, but I know how to throw down because I have to do that. I have to eat to survive. So I don't, when it comes to things like that, I look at them as life skills, not things that women and little girls should know how to do, but we all have to do it to get through. If you're by yourself, you're forced to do that. Now, of course, if I have a man by my side, I should not have to change my tire. I should not have to go to the car wash or take my car to the shop. But if I'm by myself, that's what I have to do. So yeah.
when China, when you say you know how to do it, and of course I run into this. So scenario, right? We married. Me and China married riding down I-10, and tire blows over. I'm in the driver's seat, even though I hate driving. And even though you know how to do it, are you gonna open that passenger door and head out to that tire? Or are you just gonna sit there and let me do what I got to do?
I'm gonna let you do what you need to do as the man. Now, if you need my help, I may not make you feel bad. I might say, "Hey, babe, maybe you need to do this." Oh, no, you got it. That's it. I may coach you through it without telling you what to do, right? Like indirectly saying, "Hey," throwing out suggestions. But I'm gonna make you feel like a man. And when you get a change, you gonna be rewarded. But
collard greens and rice, collard greens and bread. That's collard greens and bread. That's it.
That's it. That's it. So, I just think it's just life skills. But when you have someone with you and available to do that for you, that is where women want to sit back and relax and say, "Hey, my man got this."
I was just going to add, so my baby boy is truly a baby boy. He's 2. So about these life skills, we ain't got there yet. But one of the things that I am working on with him is, when he's crying, when to allow him to cry and figure it out, and when to have him learn to ask for help. And that goes back to, this whole toxic masculinity, like not being too toxic to the point where you're not able to talk to someone about what's going on with you. You're not able to express your emotions. You're not able to ask for help and still feel like a man. And so for me, that's one of the things that I'm wanting to and trying to teach him outside of getting him around male role models so that he can have that masculine energy about him. So I do have him spend time with his grandfather so he can get that. But that's one of the things that I'm learning about is making sure that he's not that toxic masculine boy growing up to a man and everything is violence and I don't know how to express myself and I don't know how to talk to people and I don't have a safe space to ask questions and express my emotions.
So, on this topic, I'm thinking that this could really run into another discussion series as it pertains to the quote unquote black male. And the question that I would want to examine is, who taught the black man how to be a man in America? Just kind of think about that. If you think about the history of being brought to America and being born to America, who taught the black man his masculinity? And I think that's a really deep discussion. But since that's really not the topic for today, but I think it's very relevant to this discussion. And I would love to just really bring you all back to mind that and maybe bring some additional assistance for Penny. But Penny, you're doing a good job so far. I mean, you'll be able to hide the bruises lately. They're not hitting you above the head. It's all below the neck and shoulders. Here's the question to get back more relevant to the table paradigm. We talked about it from the traditional male perspective, more from a modern perspective. We've looked at that. We haven't really delved into that as much yet. However, one of the questions that I had brought to the panel was, is there a difference between a personal relationship and a business relationship? Because what do women bring to the table sounds kind of like a contractual business contract in a way. And the subtopics under that question are, we in relationships we're exchanging money for acts of service. There's economic costs for relationships, so that requires cash flow. And each union has some informal type of a contractual agreement or contractual, I guess that's semantic. And then there's usually an investment involved, an investment of time or money, time which you can never get back. So you'd have to question which of that is most valuable to you. And then even in talks of a legal marriage, you have occasionally the topic come up with prenuptial agreements. So are we talking personal or are we talking business when it comes to the table?
I mean, I personally think marriage is a business. Certainly it's a personal relationship, but it's, I mean, let's be honest, the business. I mean, you legitimately have to sign a legal document in order to be your marriage to be recognized. And there's a ton of, legal and financial repercussions to the signing of that document. The document is powerful. It's extraordinarily powerful. But yeah, I definitely think marriage is a business. I mean, it is. It's definitely a business. It should be operated as such. Not saying that there isn't a personal aspect to it, because it is. But I think that at least in our community, we focus too much on the personal and we ignore the business aspects, the business of marriage. That's why we downplay it. It's just a piece of paper. It's a powerful piece of paper. Yeah, if you don't believe me, you watch somebody that's in a hospital sick, that has that person that they're not married to, tries to make decisions for, or lose that person that you weren't married to, and then try to fight it out in probate court, trying to divvy up your assets with this person that you were with for 11 years, and you acquired all these assets, and y'all got kids, and they got family, and they fighting over it. So I think that I've always said marriage is a business, should be operated as such.
I'm gonna actually agree with him on that one.
Boom.
I'm gonna actually agree with you on that one. Only because when you sign that paper, everything they have, I'm talking about everything, all their debt, all their taxes. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. You have everything.
Sounds like you've had an experience with debt and taxes. Stacey, you funny.
For real. That one, yeah. And if you get the wrong business partner, you going under.
You got a vet.
So why do we not pay more attention and more intentional about that aspect of a relationship?
You learn after you do it one time. Some people do it off rip, but me, myself personally, I learned. So it won't happen no more.
Well, you definitely are not in the mainstream, because statistically, people are not learning.
Well, I'm learning. I'm taking notes. A whole lot of them. I'm gonna write a book.
So what is it? What is that thing that has us go into relationships more emotionally and only become clear-headed about the business aspect of it later? What is that? What's going on in our social practice that we are
not healed?
You're leading with these.
Not healed. No, you're
leading with these.
It ain't even
and
eyeballs.
these.
It ain't even the eyeballs. It's the simple fact is some people, I would say myself personally, going into a relationship because you ain't had one in a while, blinders on. Oh, this is gonna be good for me. It turned into a situationship. Then it ended up to something that it shouldn't have been. We all that's 99% of half of the marriages in the world. I feel like sometimes.
Invisigoat says, because people believe that to focus on that aspect of it suggests that there is very little love. That's pretty powerful, I think.
I
That's
believe that.
that's true.
Yeah. For instance, I'm an accounting manager, right? I love what I do, but it's still a business transaction. I do what I do to reap the benefits, right? I like to shop, as Penny said. And as far as that goes for a relationship, sorry, ladies, but so many women think just because they have a vagina that they're not, and I know some, they don't go in it with the heart or the mind. They go in it to say, what benefits am I going to get from this? And as Benny mentioned, finances, finances, finances. You can have a man you're not nearly attracted to, you're not into, the conversation isn't good, but because he got $1, I'm going to give him a conversation. And guilty, I've been there, done that way back then, way back then. You know, as I matured and making a nice living for myself, I don't need anyone for that. Do I like you? Do I care about you? Do I genuinely enjoy your company? Do we mesh well together? How is the vibe? Um, take something light as smacking, right? Smacking when you're eating. If you don't like anybody and you on a date and they smacking while they eating, that's gonna get on your nerves, okay? But if you love their dirty draws, it's not gonna bother you one bit. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm from Mississippi. I gotta, bring it back. But I mean, honestly, if you're not truly into someone and if you're really not caring about them, you're not gonna get what you went in there for. And that's, to me, that's the heart. I'm beyond how much someone makes. No, I don't want anyone broke. I don't want anyone sleeping on their mom's couch, but I want someone to make me feel good. I want someone who has a relationship with God. I'm 32, gonna be 33. I don't have kids. I want someone who's trying to get married and be on that same track with me. But a lot of people aren't going into it like that. They're not leading with that. They're going into it as, what can I reap from this?
Going into it looking at the surface, what's on the outside. The man looking at what does she look like, the woman looking at what can he give me financially, instead of looking at the person and that character and who they truly are. And I think part of that is half of us don't even know who we are to be able to look for that in somebody else.
So when the booty go flat and they go bankrupt, what's gonna happen then?
Right.
On to the next one. I'm kidding. But that's I mean, y'all summed it up. People they look outward, not inward, and the inward is temporary. It's temporary. It's very conditional, and it's the inward that will make the relationship that's going to make it last. But I said we lead with our eyeballs and our mid area. I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up.
And what China said, gets into the next question, which was if women can bring to the table equally, not that we've defined officially what the table is, but if women can bring to the table equally the same as men, what do men, and I'm going to make you answer this first, Penny, what do men need women for, if all things being equal? And there's nothing that she can do that you can do, and vice versa.
Still needs. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead.
He still, even if we're equal, he still needs a helpmate. he still has to be on his purpose and walking down a path. And in dating and vetting, I wasn't not looking at women that weren't educated or weren't good earners. It wasn't a requirement because I didn't need those things. If they had those things, I was looking, how will those things contribute to the family that I want, right? Because full disclosure, she makes an amazing living, right? She's educated. And so, but I look at how do those attributes contribute to our family? How am I going to be, how is she setting those things up to use them to benefit the family? The problem is that those women that have those things, they're for self-benefit. It's never, oh, I'm going to do this for my kids, and I got this so I can do that for my family and for my husband. It's going to do this. They never garner those tools for the benefit of a family. It's for benefit of self. All things being equal, she still needs to help bring those tools and help me on the path. So if you earning good, that just means we gonna live better. If you are educated, that means we gonna learn better. If you can fix around a house, that means we just gonna build better. It's taking those tools and benefiting, because you're still the helpmate. In the Christian sense, you're still the helpmate. In the modern sense, you're still the helpmate.
So put some specifics to the helpmate. You said the earning power is the same. Skill. Most women today can change a tire. They can change out a toilet seat. They can get it, do plumbing. I mean, the women today can be as competitive in almost any area that a man has traditionally dominated, even though statistically they're not participating as much as men still. But it's not because of lack of ability. So in those situations where all things are equal, what are the specifics to a helpmate? What makes a helpmate for a man?
A woman, it's humility. If you have all those talents, and you're going to bring them to the relationship, you got to be humble and be willing to, okay, if you know how to do those things, we can do those things together. And like I said, it's just more tools for which to help to build the family, to build a relationship. But again, because women aren't going to respect a man that can't lead. If you have a guy that will lead, a man that that is standing 10 toes down, bring those tools to help him with the mission. If you could, like I said, if you can fix stuff around the house, that just means there's two people in the house and be able to teach our kids. And there may be some things that about fixing the toilet that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And a man, even a quote unquote alpha masculine man, is going to be humble enough to say, okay, all right, so long as like, and I think it was China that said this in the whole flat tire example. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, and so she's gonna, in her very feminine way, coach me through it. That's a very real example, and she didn't emasculate me. Oh, you fool! You not take no tire, fool. No, honey, maybe you should use what I'm saying? Women, y'all have that power of femininity to speak that language that we understand. My ego gets stroked, the tire gets, fixed. And because I fix a tire, I get my collard greens and cornbread. It's a win-win. You just have to know how to use your yang to my yin in the confines of our relationship. But again, and I don't want to beat up too much. A lot of women that have that they carry that masculine bravado of I'm greater than, I do not need you. You piddly man you. And so men have to come, with much more than what they have. That's why there's those mismatches. When I think that there should be a lot more matching in our community.
So, ladies, Penny says all things being equal, men still need that helpmate, and part of that criteria of being a helpmate is humility. What are your reactions, thoughts to that?
I agree, and it's respect too, because it's like that's where respect come in. Because you got to be able to not talk. I mean, yeah, like he said, yelling and talking trash, and they don't need that. Just like we don't need it, they don't need it.
I don't play poker, but isn't there a phrase, know when to hold them and know when to fold them?
Mhm.
again, when I was younger, I was a hothead. I thought I knew it all. And it really didn't hit me until after I turned 30. And I was like, what I've been doing hasn't been working. China, let's go back to the board. You know what I'm saying? And it takes you looking in the mirror and realizing and recognizing your own flaws, right? Because some people think, as Penny mentioned, they are so great, they are so flawless, and we are all very flawed. But we have to check that at the door. We have to check it at the door. And a lot of people are not ready for that. Some people they hate when someone corrects them, or if they're wrong. They can't admit it. I'll be the first person to tell you, if I'm wrong, let me know, because I do not mind apologizing, because there are going to be times when I am wrong. I don't have it all together. I don't have it all figured out. And that's where, George, to what you were saying, I'm not a man, never been one, never will be. But that's why we have you guys. But in order for a woman, and air quote, to fall in line, you have to be that man. You know what I'm saying? You have to come with it. And you can't have two alphas in a relationship. So I don't want to be the alpha. So I need you to come in. So, yeah.
Well stated, Malika.
I agree with what everyone is saying. It has to be the woman showing that man the respect, and the man taking that respect and leading with it, showing, that he values that respect, and he's going to do what he needs to do for her to continue to respect him. I agree.
But here's the reality. It ain't happening. It's not happening. Especially in my experience with our women. And again, I'm also in families all as a living. I'm in families' homes trying to address these dynamics. What we're talking about, sounds great, but in application, it's not happening in significant numbers. And it goes right back to the healing trauma, hurt people dynamic, which, again, it takes effort. Being self-reflective, being humble, having humility takes a mature emotional level of self-reflection. Being willing to look at you without blaming anyone else and saying, here's my flaws. But often what happens is, in a relationship, you're not going to admit that you did anything wrong if the other person ain't going to admit it. And if you got to admit it, you want to make sure you bring them down with you, rather than just standing on your own and saying, hey, it was me this time. That's a significant issue. It's a significant issue, especially as it pertains to the Black male, because the reality is, systemically, on a statistical level, the Black male is under constant attack. Just a fact. And constant attack doesn't necessarily mean what you can see. It's the everyday, today practices, places, policies that Black men have to endure in these systems, whether they're blue collar or white collar. The trauma is real. And for our community, it's what I call normalized dysfunction. We are highly functional in our dysfunction. It's like a functional drunk, right? A person who can knock him out the night before and still get up at 5 o'clock and be to work by 6 and perform. That's what we've had to do, men and women in our community, as a racial demographic. We've had to react to our environment. So again, we're reacting. You spend that much time fighting these enemies outside of you, then you come home. You can't afford to have one thing go out of place. The last thing a Black woman wants to be told is something she didn't do right. All hell to the no. Everything I done today for your Black, and you got the nerve to tell me that right? It's going to be a problem. And men, we get out there, we're beat up all day long, or we're not acknowledged properly. We're not given credit where credit is due. Then we come home to our sanctuary and would appreciate the slightest bit of admiration, the slightest bit of, honey, nice job. And 9 times out of 10, all you get is a side eye or a smirk to total ignorance. That's enough to set a brother off. That's just real. He's been out there getting his ass handed to him all day long and can't get the respect at home. This is real stuff. And what we do is we beat each other up for it, blaming each other for feeling this way rather than, hey, we got to fix this. This is not working. And we're teaching this to our children. So I didn't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but
this is the whole thing. You don't just wake up one day and come home to stuff like that. Sometimes it's a reason why she's like that. It could be a reason why. It's because you don't just wake up and say, okay, I'm finna tear this man down. I'm gonna get on his nerves.
Well, since you kind of are on the outlier, you're not in the mainstream because you figured it out early. Your case has merit, but in terms of the mainstream, the statistically larger portion of our community, the reason has already been baked in the cake. The reason is that through the history of our development in this country, we have learned to not appreciate the femininity in each other and the masculinity in each other. We've been in competition with each other. And it's that competition that we're battling now, because right now the Black woman is the rising trajectory in terms of skills, employment, entrepreneurship. The Black man is either plateauing or maybe a slight downtrend. But the average Black woman right now is making more money than the average Black man. That's changing the trajectory. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but in terms of how it applies to how we think about our male and female roles, it's a significant issue. So in Visigoth it says in caps, competition. That's the word right there. And that's it. You know, a lot of times, and a little self-disclosure, but I've been in situations where I had to tell my woman, look, there's only one penis in the house.
How did she receive that?
Oh, it didn't go very well, but I didn't care at that point. Because here's the thing. You don't need permission from anyone else. You've heard me say this before. Penny's heard me say this before. You don't need permission from anyone else to be a man. If you have to let a man be a man, then you don't have a man, because a man does not require your permission. Being male is not a popularity contest. Being a man means I'm going to piss my woman off every now and then, not because I'm a asshole. I may have asshole tendencies, but that's not why. But I'm going to piss her off because I'm going to have to tell her things that she's not going to want to hear. Going to have to do it. It's just going to have to happen. And if there's no trust, see, there has to be trust in that relationship. It's easy to trust when everything's going your way. But the real test of a relationship, the real test of friendship, is when the shit hits the fan. Are you with me now? Because you don't have the answer, but I'm willing to find the answer. You going to follow me, or are we going to swing penises at each other all day, trying to figure out who's running this thing? What were you going to say, Stacey?
I was going to ask, did she argue back with you? But apparently you were saying y'all was going back and forth. Yeah, if you say you got it, I'm right there. Hey, go ahead, you got that.
Yeah, well, we got to teach that more, because that's not the general reaction. Right. And it's trauma. It's all trauma. So
I think that sex is hell. You tell me you got it, and I ain't got to worry about it. Who? Do that. Do that, please.
Well, the other end of it though is what Penny was saying. That's where you need the help. The help. That's where you need the help. You got it, baby. I'm with you, honey.
I got you.
Because I know you. I believe in you.
Yep.
You said you got it.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Now, in the back of your mind, you might be saying that boy gonna get out there and mess himself up. But go on, baby. Go on, baby.
No, that's something. I ain't gonna let him mess
Listen, he won't know it though. He's not supposed to know that.
Right.
I ain't gonna let him mess this
right,
up.
China.
We're doing a whole lot of praying behind him. Like, Lord, please don't let him mess this up.
Right.
But I'm encouraging to do it. Don't know about your business, bro.
And if you do, I'm just here to, pat you up and console you.
There you go. There you go.
I'm so ready to sit back and let a man lead up in here. Y'all don't even understand. Y'all don't understand. It is hard. Do you hear me? It's hard. All of us, we are very rational and reasonable people on this podcast. But out there, it's some fools and a half, okay? It's we make it seem as though, it's so easy, and it's always easier said than done.
It's not
because it's just hard. You know what I mean?
Well, man, I think we was having a spiritual moment right there, boy. Somebody could have started preaching and passing the plate. So we're at the end. This has been a great discussion. We were able to get through a lot of the questions, and I appreciate these discussions because there's more content that comes out of these discussions that really deserve a show of their own for discussion. But as I usually like to end it, I like to try to close it on a positive note. So what I want to ask each panelist to do is just take 30, 40 seconds to give advice on either how to be more effective as a woman in the relationship, or be more effective as a man in the relationship. And you don't have to you can pick either side. Just because you're a woman, you don't have to pick the woman. If you got advice for men to do, or if Penny has advice for women, whatever you think, something that you can say that would help uplift and empower our community to start changing what we're doing currently and flip the script towards healthy relationships. Let's start with Stacy.
I'm saying this to men. Men need to understand us as women, we do not want to leave. We don't want to use y'all either. Right? I want me. I don't want you because of your money. I bring my own money to the table. You bring yours. But I need somebody that's going to lead. I need somebody that's going to literally check me when I need to be checked. I don't need a guy to talk to you any kind of way. I need somebody that's going to be a man. I'm just like, y'all got to heal. Whatever y'all need to do to heal, to be men and lead us as women. We want that. We don't want to take nothing from y'all. All we try to do is add to what y'all already have. And we go from there. We need friends. We need friends. We need people we can have something like. We need people to encourage us to come on the same too.
Amen. Amen, Stacy. Malika.
My message is the same as it's been part one earlier today. Heal. Please go heal so you can hear a man and what he's saying, regardless of the tone he's saying in you, so you can hear it and understand where he's coming from. Heal so you're not reacting and you're not responding from a trigger and from your trauma. Heal so you can sit back and trust that he's going to lead you in the right direction. He might mess up a couple times, but in the end, heal so you can trust that you're gonna get there. Heal.
So that you are not reacting from your trigger and your trauma. Wow. Thank you, Malika. I love that. China.
I would say don't always go into defense mode. Everyone is not out to get you. Your past is your past, and we all have one. But as she mentioned, heal, get over it, and understand it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to open up. It's scary if you've never been in that position, but it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be soft. And, just know that you don't have to do it by yourself. Just because you do, it doesn't mean you want to, right? So understand where one falls short, the other one comes in. And just be open. Just be open.
Love it. Thank you, China. Penny.
I got kind of a hybrid message message for both sides, and it's really quick and really simple, actually. Men, lead with confidence and not arrogance, and understand the difference between the two. And then women, just be humble. Be humble. We know that you can move mountains, but just be humble about it. And take that strength and learn how to channel it into that man, and use those feminine powers that you have. And trust me, it works. It works.
Thank you, Penny. And Invisigo, she's dropped the last line saying she's really enjoyed this and commended us all on the work of this podcast. And Invisigo, we appreciated your input as well. I will say one last thing. I would say that as men, we're strong. We are strong. But with the power of our women, we're superheroes. Literally superheroes. And I want the women in our community to reframe the way they see us and look at us as one of their top resources in their life. See us as a valuable resource rather than the negative, dysfunctional ways you see us. You'll get so much more out of us. Statistically speaking, the women in our community are getting the least bang for their buck when it comes to the men in their community in comparison to every other cultural group. So this has been great. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Malika. Thank you, China. And Penny, as usual, flying in from the East Coast, coming in hot, in uniform. Boy, that's a man right there. Thank you, brother. You handled it well. Yes, sir. Thanks to all of you. So this has been nice. This has been great. Have a great week. And until the next time we meet, we'll catch you in the black space.